Welcome back. Here we go.
Prove that man could fly into orbit around the Earth
Oops.
and return live and well to talk about it.
Always a balance of managing risk as you go forward to execute a test point and figuring out a way to collect the data. We hear a sound. Okay, is that sound an expected sound? And we see a light. Is that light an expected light? What's the source of it? Does it sync up with something else that's going on or not? So trying to dissect all of that in real time in your head is
They're steady.
a lot of things happen like that on launching of a vehicle.
From St. Anne, Missouri, he is an Air Force colonel and flight test engineer. He flew aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour twice. Introducing NASA astronaut Bob Behnken.
My career at NASA has kind of spanned a couple of decades at this point. I arrived with the class of 2000. Went through the training program, primarily focused on the Space Shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems. Having launched a couple times on vehicles, the second time was definitely different than the first time. You can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing? Is there one more piece of information I should get?
Still have balloons left over from my birthday
so
last
that's definitely
night.
different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now. It's been really interesting, I think, for both my wife and I to have gone through the process of seeing each other launch in space. I've seen her take that risk and had it be in front of her, and I've done that to her. There's just something different about watching a rocket launch when there are people on board. You feel a little bit differently about the pit of your stomach, and I can only tell you it's multiplied significantly when it's somebody that you know, and then somebody, of course, that's a family member. It's even multiplied more.
For me personally, as a spouse, watching everything that Bob has put into this over the last 5 years, the dedication that he's shown, the perseverance is pretty special. For both of us, though, the way our minds work, it won't be until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it.
Right.
This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test engineer to be part of the demonstration mission of a brand new vehicle. It's going to be amazing.
There we go.
Without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. Really, my role on the Demo 2 mission is to make sure that we get this vehicle tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the International Space Station. We've got a lot of objectives on board the vehicle that we need to accomplish to really make sure that it's good to go. We'll make sure
How's
all
my
the
audio?
systems are working during the
I think
test
we're
flight so that the future missions,
just
will have them
under,
available
let's
even
see,
if they don't
we're
plan to.
5 minutes away, 5 minutes and
Through years of the NASA
48
team
seconds
helping to
away
show that
from
it's-
whether or not they're going to stand down on the launch. The poll or no poll, I believe. So it's kind of this is a moment. This is a moment. All right. Sarah. Let's see.
vehicles under development. It's a great time from a
I haven't
space
eaten today, so
exploration
I apologize for the crunching.
All that happening, and it's because of this nurturing of the environment, being able to pull in a wider group of people who can contribute towards human spaceflight. It's a super cool time. On a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being
That's
an
pretty cool.
astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. I want to thank the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles in the launch pad ready to head to the International Space Station.
So I've got it streaming here and here.
We're just over 49 and a half minutes away from launch of the Falcon 9 carrying Dragon to the space station. Right now, the launch director and the launch team are preparing for a readiness for launch poll. In this poll, the 13 members of the launch team will electronically indicate a go for launch. This is also the go for propellant load. Now, we're going to hear that in a couple of minutes, so while we wait, we are tracking you watching from all over the country. We're seeing large numbers of you logging on or tuning in from coast to coast, as well as around the world. We want to know, is this your first time watching a launch live?
No.
If not, how many have you seen before? Tell us using
15?
the hashtag LaunchAmerica from your favorite social media website.
Woo!
As for me, this isn't my first one. I've seen a lot, but everyone is exciting. Now, coming up, we're going
Live
to
as in, not live in
go
person.
into
but-
a readiness poll, as I mentioned. Currently, right now, on other nets, the SpaceX launch director is checking to verify the Dragon team is ready and that the NASA launch management team is ready. They'll come back at about T-minus 47 minutes with instructions to the SpaceX Falcon 9 team to make their final assessments. Then they log
That's
into
as
the
good as it's
procedure.
gonna get. I'm
So
sorry,
different
everybody.
than the old days where you hear a go, 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 you know, position by position, all up and down the row. In this electronic age, everybody just clicks on whether to go or no go. The launch director will then, at T-minus 45 minutes, summarize the end of the poll and will then provide instructions for the team. At the same time, we will begin getting ready for the crew access arm retraction, and we'll show you that on one of the screens that we've got up.
But I don't know what to do with my hands.
Now, currently, we are continuing to monitor the weather. The weather is still red. It is improving. We're looking at one cell between the radar and the pad. We're keeping our fingers crossed that conditions will improve, but we're going to be watching that for about another 15 minutes. So it looks like
Okay,
we're going
30
to be
minutes
good
they
to
can
get
pull it.
propellant load once we hear the polls, but we still have to get the get the range green so that we can actually do the launch in just 47 minutes from now. Let's listen to Countdown Net for a moment.
Audio? Stand by for audio.
Right now, coming up on 46 minutes, 10 seconds before launch. Didn't hear any significant chatter coming over Countdown 1.
Yes, launch director to countdown net. Poll is complete, and we have a go to proceed with propellant load.
Woo! Yay!
Launch control, proceed with swinging crew arm. Arming crew arm movement for T-minus 45 minutes.
That's good news.
Thank you, launch control. A reminder in control room on hold and launch escape protocol. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief CE or LD, and it will approve aborting the launch auto sequence and proceed to launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. Operators shall also advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring
Hey,
for
Stelly.
Dragon manual escape flight rules. Remainder on fire alarm instructions. Here in fire room 4, in the event of a fire alarm, key operators, previously briefed, will remain at their posts while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personal safety is threatened, we will evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. One final reminder, we'll be arming the launch escape system momentarily. Need all personnel, please stay in your seats from now through orbit insertion and Dragon separation from the second stage. Crew access arm retract has started.
And you've heard Mike Taylor, the SpaceX launch director, give instructions to the team. We've also just heard the call to crew access arm retraction
there it
is
goes.
underway. Great view from the camera inside the White Room.
Woohoo!
As we see the arm moving away from the Dragon
Bye.
capsule, one of the major events necessary to get down to T0. The next one coming up will be arming of the escape system on the Dragon capsule. Now, right now, the next plan for Falcon 9, T-minus 35 minutes, we will begin loading propellant onto the first and second stages. Now, currently, Falcon 9's looking good, Dragon's looking good. The range continues to be go for launch in terms of the clearance around the launch pad, both the air and the sea space. Looking at the flight corridor, the ground stations, the NASA tracking and data relay satellites are ready to support, and we just continue to monitor the weather. Our team is getting constant updates. We're monitoring weather data sensors around the launch site, looking to make sure that we can get everything into the green position. The one that we're mostly looking at right now is how much rain we're going to get between now and liftoff, whether it's just going to be mild precipitation that's within the rules for loading propellant. That's what the expectation is, but we're going to continue to watch that. So fingers crossed, but right now coming up at T-minus 43 minutes, 18 seconds and counting, everything but the weather's go, and the weather is trending in the right direction. So we've got our fingers crossed here. At this time, we're going to send it back over to Kennedy Space Center as the action is picking up on the launch pad.
Thanks, John I. Now that countdown clock is continuing to tick, and we are 42 minutes and 46 seconds away
Birthday
from
balloons.
launch. As you just saw,
Might as
the
well use
crew
them as
on
decor,
track.
right?
That is the last major visual milestone before liftoff. And we should be hearing out on the net soon confirmation that the launch escape system is armed. When that happens, all 8 of the Super Draco throttle valves are opened, which means that those engines can ignite.
There's Lauren. Love that girl. She's the best. One of my favorite SpaceX
So that
commentators.
means those 8 throttle valves are opened, and if those Super Dracos needed to fire in order for Dragon to escape off of the pad, they could. And so things running just a little bit ahead of schedule right now.
That never happens. Typically doesn't.
Now we just saw the crew access arm retract just a minute ago. We saw NASA astronauts Doug Hurley.
In 7.2, our visors are closed and we're arming the launch escape system.
Ooh, cool.
So we just heard the astronauts confirm that they are about to arm the launch escape system. That happens just before fueling begins, which we expect to happen in just a couple of minutes. We saw Bob and Doug suit up a little over 3 hours ago. Then
Barney
we watched
Stinson
them
would be
drive
so
out
proud.
to Launch Complex 39A. They were assisted by the SpaceX ground team with Crew Dragon ingress. That happened a little before 2 o'clock this afternoon. And then we saw the spacecraft hatch close.
Suit up.
And again, just a minute ago, we saw the crew access arm retract. We just heard that the crew armed the launch escape system. And in just a few minutes, we are going to hear the call that they have started propellant loading.
Okay.
Launch escape system is verified armed.
Ooh. This might actually be
So we
happening.
just heard that verification that the launch escape system is armed.
Ooh, it might be happening today. I'm trying to share it to some other stream or some other social media outlets so we can get some people on
And
the
we are
stream.
going to send it over to Hawthorne.
If you guys wouldn't
to
mind
take us
sharing
through
it to
prop loading.
any of your
Jesse?
social media outlets, that'd be great. A link to this live stream.
Launch escape system. SpaceX has designed.
I know
Crew
I'm
Dragon
competing
and
with a bunch of
Falcon 9 to
others,
be
but
the safest vehicle,
more the merrier,
launch vehicle
please.
ever flown. And joining us today, we have SpaceX's Nick Picone, who was our mission manager for our in-flight abort mission earlier this year, and currently works on the Starlink team. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Hey Jesse, I'm here at the Launch and Landing Recovery Center with the recovery team, our Dragon ground operations team monitoring the launch.
Awesome. Can you tell us more about the critical safety features
Sharing it to my
on this
family.
new version of Dragon?
Maybe they'll want to pop on.
Sure. So
Maybe
Dragon
not.
2 was designed with long-term use and reliability in mind. So fundamentally, there are multiple layers of redundancy to any of the failure modes that we could conceive of, that NASA could conceive of when we were working to design and test this vehicle over the past few years. But in the event that we encounter an unforeseen failure mode or multiple failures which push us outside of our design space, Dragon also has backup systems and operational controls intended to keep Bob and Doug safe. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it today, but the launch escape system is the primary backup system that we have from the moment that the vehicle is here on that being fueled all the way up until orbital insertion. At a high level, the launch escape system, in the event of a major Falcon anomaly or
I'm going to share it to my
emergency,
family. Here we go.
terminate Falcon thrust, separate Dragon from Falcon, and it'll use Dragon's 8
Share.
Super Draco engines to quickly pull the vehicle away from any kind of Falcon anomaly.
And you talked a lot about the launch escape system.
Our launch director and chief engineer, who we've heard a lot from today, are capable of sending a manual command.
All the prop was getting loaded up. I was just going through my crew notebook. I was thinking about, what my first step would be. If there was
Thank you for answering everybody's questions and being kind to one another. It's awesome. Mike Anderson, thank you for joining. Welcome. Ben C., welcome back.
On my mission, I was calling out the abort calls. I think we had lost an engine. We got next from the different abort calls around the country and around the world. So I think that's what those guys are probably thinking about now, and just really getting ready for this.
Sorry, I stepped away. We're about
Absolutely, and we're
15
just
seconds
now
away
about
from
20 seconds
propellant load.
when we expect propellant loading to start. Again, that's fueling of the rocket.
Go, 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 go.
We're getting close. We should hear that call
See?
out any second now on the nets. So let's listen in.
Look at that
Propellant
view.
load has started.
Fantastic.
Woo!
So prop load has started. We've started loading liquid oxygen on stage. System is
Woo
armed,
woo!
which happened just before fueling. Dragon prop load happened weeks ago, actually just a few miles down the road at what we call Dragon Land. And those propellants, which are MMH or monomethylhydrazine, that's our fuel, and NTO or nitrogen tetroxide.
Jade Medley, are you
that's our
back? Weather Storm
oxidizer.
Chaser?
Those not only feed the Draco engines
Do you think
that
this
propel
is
Dragon
this is
on
feasible
orbit, but
with
they
the weather?
also supply those 8 Super Draco engines of the launch escape system. So I have one right here, a little model.
Lauren!
Oh, it doesn't come off. the
She's
screen.
awesome.
Don't break it, Lauren.
All right, I know, it's very nice.
I want one of those.
Dragon is actually broken up into 4 quads, and each quad has 2 of the Super Draco
Would it be
engines for a total
better
of
or
8
worse if I
of them.
turn the
And
light
as I
off
mentioned,
behind
they
me?
are
Thumbs
bipod
up?
engines. They have
Thumbs
MMH,
down?
and
Better or
NTO
worse?
is their oxidizer.
Hi, Stella,
Most abort
welcome.
systems from
Hello.
past space vehicles, I believe like
Come here.
Soyuz, Mercury,
Come
Apollo,
here.
they all had a pointy escape tower on top where there was essentially like a mini
I love
rocket
her.
engine or a series of rocket engines on top. And if they weren't used, that escape tower would have to jettison itself from the vehicle. If it was used, it would be used to lift the vehicle off of the rocket. Well, Dragon is a little bit different in that its escape
Hi,
system
come
is
here.
actually integrated into the vehicle, and that's great for a couple of reasons. One,
Stella's
one,
ready
that's
for
when
launch.
You have to jettison on a nominal flight, and so they're pretty dormant. Just those throttle valves open unless they're used, and hopefully they never have to be. And yeah, I mean, the other thing that offers you is the ability to escape from the pad all the way to orbit.
Hi.
Because if you jettison your
Sally's
escape
ready.
system prior to that, you couldn't.
Are you ready?
So yeah, that's a little Dragon there.
Thanks, Lauren. Love
Safe and
you.
sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for walking us through that, Lauren. Again,
Yes.
the launch escape system is armed. That protects
I wanna
Falcon
be
does
friends
so
with
that if
Lauren.
something were to go wrong, they can shoot off of the pad away from the rocket and parachute to safety in the ocean. That is such a crucial safety capability.
Now I
And
can
so
mic
now we're gonna
myself
go
up
over
for
to
real,
Lauren
as
for
long as I don't
operational
move
update.
a lot.
Thanks, Murray. We are counting down those final minutes. Everything is still looking good on the
2 minutes and
Falcon
17
Dragon
seconds
vehicle
until
for
they
now.
announce whether
Weather
is a go.
right now. We're keeping our ears open in case we hear that the weather is going to be no-go for the rest of the count. Right now,
Back.
we are
Hey.
counting down at T-minus 32 minutes.
2 minutes exactly until they announce whether go or no go.
35 minutes, right on time.
Thanks for announcing that you're back. I appreciate it.
Falcon 9 are a fuel, which is rocket-grade kerosene, also called RP1, refined petroleum.
Stelly's ready.
We use an oxidizer. and that's
Going
the super
pro.
chill liquid oxygen,
I don't know
or
what that
ROX, as
means.
we call it.
Hi.
Those two propellants would,
Hello.
come together, but they don't light,
But
so
it
we
doesn't
need
mean that
ignition
if you
for
could
it to
explain
complete
yourself a
the
little
fire
bit more,
triangle.
Jose.
For this, Falcon 9 uses a fluid called T-tub. You might see that just before first stage ignition. or
Please
maybe
understand that I
later in second
misinterpret
stage ignition.
things
You
very
get
easily,
three
so if you don't
colored
give a very
flames, the T-tub
concise
comes out with
explanation
the oxygen,
or clear,
and that ignites
I think
the
it will be a
main
go.
engine
Oh,
right before
yay!
the rocket takes
Woo!
off or the second stage engine.
I'm gonna scare Stella with
Now,
my
currently
screams.
in the fueling,
I'm
RP1
sorry,
fuel
Steady.
is about 10% full on the first
I
stage.
love you.
That's the bottom
Do you think because
two-thirds
they're
of the stack of the vehicle you can see
because
on
the propellant load? Do you think that with the propellant load that's a good indicator?
That's the entire first
You think so too, Garrett? Okay, cool. This is happening. Ah, this is so cool.
back to Earth. The second stage just above it, the white cylinder, and then above that will be the Dragon trunk and the capsule. Now currently the
Upper level
second
winds
stage
and
is
radar.
also loading fuel with RP1. That's
Think it looks
about,
good?
8% full right now. We are loading liquid oxygen on the first stage. The
32
second stage
seconds
liquid
until
oxygen
pull out or
will be
non.
T-minus 16 and a half minutes if the weather cooperates. So LOX loading will then continue on both the first and second stage until the last few minutes of the countdown. Helium loading is also underway into pressure vessels on the second stage. We use that to pressurize the tanks in flight as the propellant is being pulled out by the Merlin turbo pumps. Dragon on board the spacecraft. You can see the astronauts are monitoring.
Here you go, 4
systems
seconds.
while propellant is loaded into the Falcon 9. Now,
Steady.
when we
Stage
flew
one cryo-helium load
the
has
first
started.
demo flight last year and then the in-flight escape test earlier this year, the sounds inside the Dragon capsule were recorded. So as part of the training, the sounds of the propellant loading were played back to acclimate the crew to what they're experiencing now. I'm listening to some discussion on one of the back nets.
About weather?
Trying to track where we are with the weather criteria.
Come on.
We're just passing another weather gate right now, trying to see whether or not the conditions are go.
Please.
In certain situations, when the weather is no-go, you have to wait 30 minutes, and we are now inside of 30 minutes.
Yes.
But if the cloud moves away, if the conditions improve, we may be able to continue the countdown for another 14 minutes and reassess. So we're waiting to see whether or not we can continue to count.
Oh my gosh, my palms are sweaty.
The range, they're ready to support with no problems in the air and the space area. But again, the weather, that's the one that's looking bad, and we're going to continue to listen.
Bad.
And as a reminder,
It's a
today we
bad
have
word.
instantaneous launch time. So at this point, if we hear a hold for any reason, we're going to have to stand down and target our backup launch opportunity on May 30th.
Sounds not promising. But we'll see. I wish I could get there on May 30th.
Demo 2, Bob and Doug's flight to station will take about 19 hours, and their journey is fairly similar to the trip our cargo Dragon makes back and forth to the International Space Station, with two noticeable differences: docking and splashdown.
As we await T-0 in just a little over 28 minutes from now, ground operations team's just doing those final series of system checks, making sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready.
Look
for
how
liftoff,
comfortable they
and
look.
Really keeping an eye on that weather.
Think
We're
about-
just continuing to get live views of the team.
Think about the old original NASA space suits. They were bulky, they were uncomfortable.
Once we hit
Look,
T0,
he can move around
launch
with
occurs,
his arms a little bit.
Falcon 9 and
Look,
Dragon make their
hold.
ascent until Falcon 9 and first and second stages separate and send Dragon on its way to the space station.
Yeah, exactly.
Once it
Right, the
gets on
cabin
orbit,
toilet.
Mission operators will prepare Dragon for on-orbit operations, where Dragon will execute a series of burns that are going to gradually raise its orbit to align more closely with the International Space Station. You're seeing some of that track in the animation on your screen right now.
Let's see,
After
Tesla
landing,
Phoenix.
Dragon.
He thinks it's a
We're
go.
going to get a weather update real quick for the crew.
Go ahead, SpaceX.
Yeah, we're currently just evaluating one constraint, a constraint on the field mill rule, which looks at lightning energy dissipation. We expect to have an update at about T-20 and more information there on whether we would be able to continue into the prop load or scrub at that time.
Okay, Jay, thanks for the update. We appreciate
Any
Copy, so I'll give you some more
Space
word in about
Coast weather chasers
Okay, so
out
it sounds
there?
like we're going to find out in about 6 minutes if we're going to have enough time. And John, I was referring to a couple of those weather situations where we have to have a certain amount of time. In this case, with the field mills, about 15 minutes. So they have until about 16 minutes and 30 seconds to really make sure that we're going to have enough time for that to dissipate. So we're going to be listening for that weather update in just a couple of minutes, but it is going to be a pretty interesting trip uphill for them once they actually get on orbit.
And a very exciting countdown with 6 minutes to figure out if we are launching today. But targeting back to what we were talking about, next Dragon will make its approach and actually dock with the space station. This is a very different process from what we've seen with Dragon cargo deliveries in the past, which used a process called berthing. Now, berthing requires a spacecraft to approach the station and then stop so a crew member can maneuver the station's robotic arm to capture the spacecraft. Docking on this version of Dragon can be done autonomously.
Stage 2 cryo-helium load started.
Autonomously with no crew aboard the station. It's typically a faster process, both when arriving and leaving, but it does still require pinpoint accuracy to approach safely.
Once captured, a spacecraft then gets attached to a common berthing mechanism. It's the same type of port that we use to connect each of the modules together on board station. It's a little bit slower process than docking, but the hatches are significantly larger than docking ports, which makes them perfect for bringing up
Come
large
on.
items.
Come on.
Spend up to 120 days docked before preparing to return home. Following successful completion of Dragon's test,
I'm tweeting over here trying to figure out what people think is going to happen.
Perform final system checks and configure the vehicle for undocking. Once the automated undocking
Michael
sequence is
Hodges, he
complete,
works at the
Dragon
Orlando
will
airport.
complete 2 departure
He
burns
just
using
liked
its
the
Strabo
tweet.
engines
I just
50
asked, go or
away
no
from
go,
the space
visible
station.
lightning, question mark.
And then after Dragon departs the station, it's ready for its trip home. And that'll have
Waiting on
orbit
lightning
entry,
dissipation
landing,
report.
and
We will see in about 5
number of
minutes.
other operations. If you're looking at this animation, it
My
might
palms
look
are
like
sweaty.
the one that played originally in reverse, because that's kind of how it goes, but just a little bit quicker. All of the operations following the final departure maneuver will include things
I
like
have to keep
separation,
my hands
closing
occupied.
that nose
Right,
cone
Stella?
again, executing a deorbit burn, and once they're inside the atmosphere, deploying drogue and then main parachutes, and then finally splashing.
I made
down
my own
onto the
fidget
board.
clicker.
At which teams will move in, get Bob and
Gaff
Doug
tape
up
on
out
one
of the
side
water,
to
and get
protect the
them out of
components
capsule.
from hurting my hand.
So,
And
we
then
have 4 minutes now until we get that next expected weather
clicker
update. Let's go
on
down
this
now
side.
to
I love the
T
noise. I love the
minus
sound. It
30.
keeps my fingers going.
Thanks, Dan. If you're just joining us, we are now T-minus 23 minutes and 48 seconds from the first launch of astronauts to the International Space Station from U.S. soil in 9 years. We're going to find out in less than 4 minutes if the weather looks good for that. And this will mark the beginning of a new era where more people will be able to fly to space than ever before. In fact, we took a poll a little bit earlier to ask you if you had the opportunity to fly to space, would you go? And 86% of those of you watching answered that you would go to space.
That's an incredible number, I think.
I just wrote to Elon Musk, looking studly in your suit today, just saying.
You can be a regular.
He does. He looks good.
Regular person going up to space on a SpaceX type rocket. So I
No,
think
I'm not
that's
interested
what
in dating him. But
Yeah, and
I'm
we
allowed
are
to say that he
really
looks good.
thrilled to see all the folks watching along online. I know we certainly hope that that this is a go, but we're going to hear a little bit of a weather update in less than 3 minutes now. And Leland, I know they're waiting for a weather update, and they've come.
Oh, Michael Bodner said I'm standing here watching the lightning. Oh no, boo! Oh, oy vey.
Other problems, and I think we were getting close to the.
Erg.
The sky just cleared up right above our.
No, it didn't.
We knew we were going, and we always know that you can have any types of delays, fuel prop delays, all kinds of things that can happen.
Oh man.
We've trained over.
No good.
For these types of scenarios, and so we want to be safe. We want to be safe for our families, and we'll do this another day if it doesn't work with the weather.
They're making it sound like it's possible.
Weather, it's that thing that everybody talks about. But
It's
no
not
one
going to
can do anything
happen.
about it. And it is this interesting thing of just succumbing to Mother Earth. She's going to tell us if we can go or not today.
No, it's not going to happen.
Well, if it happens, I mean, look at it this way. Bob and Doug got one really great rehearsal in, right?
It's not happening. Darn it. Ugh, May 30th.
So again, we're less than 2 minutes now from that weather update that is going to go directly to Bob and Doug, and we will quiet down so we can
That
listen in for
sucks.
that, because I know we can't wait to find out what that is, and those of you watching that have been following along, we are eagerly awaiting to hear whether the weather is going to be a showstopper today.
Yeah, this Dave Medley, there's probably some upper level lightning up there, I assume. Bummer. That's okay.
These clouds can seem really deceiving at times, right? You
Yeah.
see the blue skies peeking through and you think everything's fine, but you just don't know. That's why we have those launch weather officers.
Absolutely, and I know, we've talked about it before, but it's not just the weather in Florida that they're looking at. They've got to look at weather downrange. If they were to have an abort in flight and they needed to come down somewhere in the ocean, they need to consider what the weather's like out there, because recovery teams have to go out and get them in a situation like that. So there's so many variables.
Okay,
and that's
so
why,
3
not
days
just
from now.
with this flight, but with every human space flight we've had in the past, there's always a very good chance of a scrub, because
If Stella and I left today, we could make it there by May
there's so
30th.
much criteria
Today, though,
that you have to meet.
or tomorrow, and I could just do
We're gonna
15-hour
listen
days.
Now we're just seconds away from.
Stella, you want to go on an adventure?
To RP1 load complete.
You want to go on an adventure? I know you do. Man.
That is liquid oxygen you see venting off the rocket. That's completely normal and expected.
Yes.
We're standing by for a weather update.
Unless you can give us another 10 minutes, I don't think we're going to get there with any of the rules today.
I'm going to give you 10 minutes.
I mean, another 10 minutes past T0. 1645 local, I think we'll probably be clear on all the rules, but not quite going to make it for this.
Okay.
Standing down.
And then I'll call it up at about 17 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, there's some of them are starting to count down, but we still have one above 2,000. So if that gets below.
Oh, they just cut the audio. Oh, no.
And that didn't sound great right
No.
there. That was the weather net going out, but we're still standing by for a final decision.
Another 10 minutes past T-0. That stinks. But it's good for safety reasons. And this was predicted, for the most part. You guys bummed or not bummed? Okay. Stella, you want to go to Florida? Be awesome if I can make it out there. Let's see.
And we're going to continue to listen in for an update, but in the meantime, we're going to go over to John Innsbrucker at SpaceX headquarters in California. John?
And Dragon SpaceX on weather. We're still
T-minus 18 minutes and counting.
LD is
We are still
having
red
some
on weather.
discussions. Expect an update from LD.
We're waiting in about another minute for one final check with weather. We're going to check at
Okay,
T-minus
great.
17 minutes possibly. We don't really expect that things will have improved. The weather officer was not optimistic that the weather would clear up that rapidly. We did hear the launch director, Mike Taylor, joke that, if we could
Had
move
10 more
10
minutes.
past the T0, weather conditions may improve, but Mike was not able to do that. We have an instantaneous window today. So at 17 minutes, we want to make that call because shortly after that, we will begin loading liquid oxygen onto the second stage. So if we're not going to have the opportunity to launch, if the clock's going to run out, stand by.
Continue to violate a couple different weather rules that
Yeah, we can't.
now do not expect to clear in time to allow for a launch today. Go ahead and today's launch attempt, launch control.
Scrubbed.
And the launch auto sequence and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence, please. Launch abort has started.
Scrubbed. Launch abort. Man.
And Dragon SpaceX, unfortunately, we are not going to launch today. You are go for 5.100 launch scrub.
Man.
5.100. It was a good effort by the teams, and we understand, and we'll meet you there.
Copy out.
What a
We've
bummer.
heard the call from the crew. They have been informed. Launch Director Mike Taylor has called a scrub for the day, and we got the feedback when the Dragon team informed Bob and Doug. They said we gave it a good try, but they understand, and we are here to try another day. So right now we did officially hold the clock. It looks like at T-minus 16 minutes, 54 seconds. The launch automatic sequence that controls the Falcon 9, the loading of propellants, the cycling of valves, that is also stopped. We now proceed into what is a normal scrub sequence for us. We practice this every launch. So now we move into safely taking the propellants, the pressurization gases back off the first and second stages. As things get into a safe configuration, then we will disarm the escape system on Dragon, and we'll bring the crew access arm back around the spacecraft. So right now, we got down to just inside 17 minutes. The hardware was working very well on both Dragon and spacecraft. We had the fuel loading going on, we had liquid oxygen loading going on, everything but second stage. And the weather just needed a little bit more time to clear the conditions. We didn't have that time because we had an instantaneous window. And so with that, SpaceX launch director had to call upon the input from weather,
Dragon, copy
had to
that. About
call
30
a
minutes.
scrub
Thank
for
you,
the
bye.
day per the safety rules that we have for this flight. So right now the team is undergoing the post-scrub operations on both Dragon as well as Falcon 9, working with the range. No issues being reported right now as we start to go through that sequence. Everything looks good. And Dan, we had a good webcast going here until the very end. So you know, we'll look at it as now we've had another great dry rehearsal. Last Saturday we did a dry one, I should say, and today we've done a wet dress rehearsal. But sorry, we just couldn't get there, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, John and obviously we can't control the weather. We came right down to the wire there, hoping we could just squeeze in between those cloud systems to get a launch today, but it wasn't to be. But it doesn't mean we're done. We're going to have another attempt coming up in just 3 days, so we're going to be doing this all over again.
Will it be at
essentially
4:33
on
p.m.?
Saturday, on the 30th, and that launch attempt is going to be coming at 3:22 p.m. Eastern
Cool.
time, so
Okay.
a little bit earlier in the day.
I
It's gonna
think
look largely
I'm
the
going to
same
go
everything
with
that
Stella.
we saw today.
I'm booking a
with
room.
The crew waking up, going through suit up, making their
I
way to
can.
the pad. So we're gonna feel a lot of deja vu, I think, on Saturday.
30th through the 31st.
But still exciting. Safety is always first, so if weather was not there for us today, hopefully Saturday it will be there for us and we will have a safe launch on Saturday.
Yeah, the initial weather report still had us at about, I think,
Checking
a
at the
40%
29th.
possibility of violation. So weather a little bit better, but we're still going to be kind of rolling the dice. It is Florida in the spring and summer, so storms are always a possibility. One of the good things, though, the vehicle appeared to be in great health throughout the day, both Dragon and Falcon 9, so we didn't have to scrub for any technical issue. We're going to continue and follow along with Bob and Doug until they're out of that capsule, as again, they had started loading fuel onto the Falcon 9 rocket, so they'll have to wait until all that fuel comes off. They'll disarm the launch escape system, which still stays armed because they're still sitting on a partially loaded rocket, and then once they're able to disarm that launch escape system, the crew arm will swing back out. They'll make their way once again back the way they came, and then we'll be back to crew quarters for Bob and Doug for a few more days.
All right.
But if you're just now tuning in, wondering why we're not still counting down, we did have a launch scrub today. We were just a little under
Stage 1
17
launch and
minutes.
fuel flow rates are nominal for offload. Expecting about a 40-minute offload time.
And so that call out the LOX, the liquid oxygen fuel pumping out of the first stage of the Falcon 9, everything looking good with that. Expecting about 40 minutes for all that fuel to come off. So again, once that fuel comes off, Bob and Doug will be able to disarm the launch escape system, and that crew access arm will swing back out. They'll be able to make their way
Okay,
back
so
down.
I'm
and
going
over
to try to
crew
book
quarters. So,
for the 30th.
unfortunate scrub today because of weather. That was the one
Checking
thing we
out
were
on
tracking from the moment we started today. Watching Bob and Doug get suited up for their launch. We did abort today's launch, or scrub today's launch, with a little under 17 minutes to go until our T0 time, which was 4:33. So that's going to move us to our next attempt, which is coming up on Saturday, and that time is going to be 3:22 p.m. Eastern time, so a little bit earlier in the day for Bob and Doug and for everybody else watching around the world. They're still going to have a 19-hour flight to station if that's when we launch, and a lot of the stuff that we saw today is going to look very similar, but we're just going to have to try again, cross our fingers, hope for a little bit better weather the next time.
And again, this goes with every launch. We do track everything all the way down to T0 to make sure that everything is go, making sure that the range is go, weather is go. So this is standard procedure. We always tend to make sure that we have a backup day, launch day, in case we do have scrubs like today. So this is pretty normal and standard. Nothing to be worried about. Again, we do this for the safety of our vehicles, as well as today we had astronauts on our vehicle. So even bigger reason for us to make sure that we have safe weather for them to fly.
And just a reminder for everyone still tuned
All right.
in, it takes about 40 minutes for all of this propellant.
Okay, so I'm going to finish booking this reservation and see if I can do it. I can cancel for free by tomorrow.